everyone, welcome back to another fun episode of the Supersonic Discussion Show. Glad to have you all here because today's episode is a special one. Before we get into that, I have some exciting news regarding this series as I plan to take the SSDS to a podcast. I'll be talking about all things Sonic the Hedgehog, including news, updates, deep dives into the characters themselves, and theories regarding the franchise as a whole. So buckle up because there's a ton more content planned. Remember to subscribe and ding that bell so you don't miss any of that as it rolls out. And if you like this video, remember to hit the like button down below as it really helps out a ton. And share this video with your friends or other Sonic nerds across the web. For today's episode, I think it's time we talk about someone other than the blue blur. Someone who's much deeper, darker, and edgier. Big the Cat. No, Big will have to wait for another time. Sorry, guys. Now, today I want to talk about none other than Sonic's rival, Shadow the Hedgehog. 2024 has kicked off to be the fearless year of Shadow, and with plenty of reason, too. Starting off, we've got Sonic X Shadow Generations to look forward to, releasing on October 25th, as well as an animated 3-part prologue that's already released its first episode. I've already seen it, it's awesome, and we will totally talk about that in its own episode. I'm excited for it. As well, we've got a third movie installment through Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which hits theaters in December. That's a lot, and that's only scratching the surface. So I feel there's no time like the present. Let's get this discussion rolling. This episode, I want to kick things off by talking about who Shadow the Hedgehog really is. To better understand him, we have to go back to the beginning, to the Space Colony arc, 50 years before the events of Sonic Adventure 2. This is where Shadow's story truly begins, and it's a complex one that involves science, tragedy, loss, and a whole lot of mystery. Shadow was created by Professor Gerald Robotnik, the grandfather of Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik, as part of Project Shadow. This project was Gerald's attempt to develop the ultimate life form, a being with the potential to unlock immortality. But it wasn't just for the sake of science. Gerald had a personal motivation, saving his granddaughter, Maria Robotnik. She was suffering from a terminal illness known as neuroimmune deficiency syndrome. Now, Maria and Shadow had shared a close bond, which becomes important later on. Shadow wasn't just a weapon in Maria's eyes. He was her friend, her hope, and the only one who could potentially save her from her illness. But when the military organization Guardian Units of Nation, or GUN, caught wind of Project Shadow, they grew fearful of its implications. They saw Shadow as a threat, something that could potentially destroy humanity. And this is where tragedy strikes. In a desperate attempt to contain the perceived threat, GUN raided the Space Colony Ark. Chaos erupted, and during the raid, Maria was fatally shot. But before she died, she managed to get Shadow into an escape pod, sending him to Earth. Her last words, "Give them a chance to be happy." They would echo through his existence, shaping much of how Shadow's character develops. That moment, Maria's death, becomes the emotional core of Shadow's story. It's what drives him forward, but also what haunts him. The pain of losing Maria leaves him with a sense of emptiness and confusion about his purpose, something we see him struggle with throughout the series. Fast forward to Sonic Adventure 2. Shadow makes his grand entrance, and what an entrance it was. From the moment we see him, it's clear that he's not just your typical Sonic rival. He's not just fast, he's calculated, methodical, and carries out an aura of mystery. Shadow first teams up with Dr. Eggman, promising to help him take control over the Eclipse Cannon, a weapon capable of destroying planets. At this point, Shadow's motivations are seemingly rooted in revenge. Revenge for Maria's death. Revenge on the human race for taking away the one person who believed in him. But as the story progresses, Shadow's motives start to shift. He's not just a villain, he's someone who's deeply conflicted. This is where Shadow's complexity really shines. We learn that while he originally wanted to fulfill what he thought was Maria's dying wish by punishing humanity, he begins to question whether that is truly what she wanted. By the end of Sonic Adventure 2, after several intense battles with Sonic, Shadow has a revelation. He realizes that Maria didn't want revenge. She wanted him to protect humanity, to give people a chance to be happy. In that final moment, Shadow makes the ultimate sacrifice. He teams up with Sonic to stop the Ark from crashing into Earth, using his powers to help save the world. And in doing so, Shadow seemingly dies, falling from space and disappearing into the atmosphere. This moment was a huge moment back in the day because it marked a complete shift in his character arc. He was introduced and was killed off in the very same game he debuted. He goes from antagonist to anti-hero, willing to give up his life to fulfill Maria's true wish. And for a while we would believe that this was the last time we would see Shadow. But we already know this wasn't the end of his story. This was merely the beginning. Of course, Shadow returns in 2003's Sonic Heroes, but here's the twist. He has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything about his past. Not Maria, not the Ark, not even who he truly is. He's left searching for answers along the way. Some pretty dark questions start to come up, one of the biggest being, is this even the real Shadow? You see, later on in the game, Rouge the Bat stumbles upon something that throws everything into question. A room full of Shadow androids all in stasis. At the beginning of Team Dark, she finds the Shadow that we've been following so far in a similar stasis chamber, and that raises this question of, is this Shadow that we've been following also an android? Is he a copy? Was he created by Eggman? Or is this the real Shadow? It's something Shadow himself also struggles with. He starts wondering whether he's a clone or if he's really the ultimate life form that he always was told he was. Despite this unsettling discovery, he pushes through despite the doubts. He pushes them aside for the time being. He doesn't let the possibility of being an android define him or his actions, at least not yet. Instead, he focuses on the mission at hand, teaming up with Rouge and E123 Omega, forming Team Dark to take on Dr. Eggman and uncover the truth about his identity. The revelation of Shadow androids play into the deeper theme of identity that follows Shadow across multiple games. It's not until his spin-off game, Shadow the Hedgehog, that he truly confronts the possibility that he could be fake. But in Sonic Heroes, that mystery's kind of left hanging, adding a whole other level of intrigue to Shadow's character. It wouldn't be right of me to talk about him without talking about his own game, which released in 2005. Shadow the Hedgehog takes Shadow's internal conflict to the next level. Shadow's amnesia is still a major plot point, and the game lets players decide whether he'll embrace the dark side or fight for good. You could choose to side with Eggman, the Black Arms, the alien race that he is tied to in his creation, or even siding with the heroes. The multiple endings in Shadow the Hedgehog highlight his moral ambiguity. Shadow doesn't have the same black and white sense of justice that Sonic does. He's constantly caught between two extremes, his dark origins and the desire to find redemption. However, the true ending solidifies Shadow's decision. He rejects both his past as a weapon and the idea of being a destroyer.
I made a promise and I'm here to keep it. Today, I put my past behind me.
Have it your way, Shadow. So be it. Be prepared to meet your maker. Your past, present, and future ends here. Today, prepare to die. Say goodbye, Shadow, as you witness my true wrath.
Goodbye forever, Shadow the Hedgehog.
That quote, it's so powerful, perfectly encapsulating Shadow's journey. He's no longer determined by what he was created to be or the pain of his past. He's no longer chained. Shadow chooses to be something more, something entirely of his own. And while the game itself was met with mixed reviews, mostly for its gameplay choices, the story gave us some incredible insights into Shadow's character. Moving on to another game that had some questionable reviews. Despite its flaws, Sonic 06 represents Shadow as a fully realized character who has finally come to terms with who he is. By the time we meet Shadow in this game, he's no longer questioning his identity or his purpose like he was in previous titles. Thanks especially to the events of his own game, he's determined to stand by who he is, no matter what anybody else thinks. In fact, he's working for Gun at the beginning of this campaign. That's got to account for something, right? Throughout the game, Shadow is faced against Mephiles the Dark, a mysterious villain who manipulates time and attempts to destroy the world. Shadow's role in this game is crucial to the overall narrative, and if it wasn't clear before, just look at that guy. Mephiles literally uses Shadow's shadow. We've seen the tug of war that is Shadow, as he's a contrast to Sonic's more optimistic worldview. Shadow is pragmatic, serious, and ready to make decisions even if they're tough and even if it means getting his hands dirty. Now, a major theme in Sonic 06 is the idea of betrayal, fear, especially when it comes to how humanity views Shadow. Mephiles constantly taunts Shadow with the notion that humanity will eventually turn on him just like they did when Gun raided the Ark and kept him contained for 50 years. There's even a chilling scene that shows a potential future where Shadow is imprisoned by the humans, locked away like a weapon that they can no longer control. But here's the thing, right? Shadow doesn't let this break him. In fact, it's in Sonic 06 that we see him make his ultimate decision. When Mephiles offers him the chance to join forces and turn against humanity, Shadow just straight up refuses. He rejects the idea of revenge. Instead, he chooses to fight for the future, not because he feels obligated to, but because it's his choice. This is the moment where Shadow truly becomes his own person, independent of the expectations placed on him by others. It's a powerful arc, especially when you consider where Shadow started. Shadow might have started out as a character created to exact revenge on humanity, but by Sonic 06, Shadow is no longer a tool of vengeance or manipulation. He stands tall as Earth's protector, someone who's willing to face down evil for the sake of the world, even if the world might fear or misunderstand him. And of course, we can't forget how awesome these key moments are.
It's destroyed!
The Eye of Now absorbed your power through your shadow in the past. What may have worked 10 years ago no longer does. You must realize now that you cannot hope to stop me with your limited power.
Shadow defeating Mephiles, standing up to him with the most badass line in the whole series.
So you say.
It's futile. The world will betray you. Why fight at all? Why risk your life for those who will persecute you later?
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Good. God, this is so good. And in the game's climax, we see him going toe-to-toe against Mephiles' final form. He embodies the resolve he's built over the years. It's here and now that we see how far he's truly come. He's not just fighting to survive or to figure out who he is anymore. He's fighting for a future that he truly believes in regardless of his past. Shadow's shown time and again that he's willing to sacrifice his own safety for the greater good. The fact that he's fighting alongside Sonic and Silver as an equal golden glow by the end of the game just cements how far Shadow's journey has led him. What I really love about Shadow is that his story isn't just a simple good versus evil narrative. He's a character defined by loss, identity, and the struggle to find purpose. He's constantly trying to reconcile his dark past with the possibility of a brighter future, and that's something that makes him stand out, not just in the Sonic series, but in gaming as a whole. To me, Shadow represents that internal conflict we all face at some point, the questions of who we are and what we're meant to do. And I think that's why he resonates with so many fans. There's this human side to these characters. Sonic represents freedom and the carefree outlook on life, where Shadow is the more grounded, determined to find the answers no matter the cost. Sure, he's edgy, cool, and has some awesome chaos powers, but underneath all of that, he is so much more. We've only just started with this deep dive into Shadow, just barely scratching the surface. The next episode, we're going to look at how Shadow has been portrayed in other forms of media, such as the comics, the TV shows like Sonic Boom or Sonic Prime, the Sonic X anime, and even the third movie as we break down what we can gather from the trailer and speculate on what is to come. What are you most excited for? Let me know in the comments. I'll read every last one because I'm interested to hear your thoughts. There's a lot of really interesting stuff to unpack here and in the future, and while Shadow's important to the series, he's only one part of this incredible cast of characters and this franchise as a whole. Thanks everyone for watching. Remember to smash the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe and ding the bell if you're at all new here, and I'll see you in the next one. Remember to stay safe, stay awesome, and stay fearless.